Hello everybody, Happy New Year and welcome to this Open Doors Day for airBaltic Pilot Academy, the first one of the new year. We are happy to see everybody, every one of you here today joining us. And my name is Randar Lait. I am currently a first officer on the Airbus A220 aircraft and also a theoretical instructor in Pilot Academy. So today we'll go over some slides to introduce you to the airBaltic Pilot Academy. The life in it will speak about the life as an airline pilot in airBaltic, and of course afterwards we will have a questions and answers part after we have concluded the presentation. So firstly, who we are and what do we do? Currently in the fleet we have 45 Airbus A220-300s, and in 2024 we will have 4 more coming in straight from the factory, and by the end of 2024 we will expect to have 50 aircraft in our fleet. Now with very good news, we can confirm that the decision has been met, that we still continue growing, and we will have an additional order of 50 aircraft, which will be then concluded in 2030, and which brings us to the fleet size of 100 by 2030. So with the great size comes great demand for employees. Currently we are already over 2,500 employees. Out of this number, 464 pilots. We can say that per each aircraft we need 10 operating pilots, averaging 5 captains and 5 first officers. So all in all, approximately 10 pilots per aircraft we actually do now have as well. Out of those pilots, 251 first officers, which we are very proud to say that over the course of the past, what is it now, then 5 years of Pilot Academy operating, already 95 graduates have started their work in the airline as well. So not only do we school cadets to be pilots, but the program works in a very efficient way, in a sense that we can actually, and we will deliver as well what we promise. So all of the graduates that have graduated in Pilot Academy already work in the airline as well. And 213 captains. So out of how does your career look like? We can expect that a first officer will be upgraded to the captain's position with approximately within 5 years' time. In some airlines that is a really small number or a short time. We could say that 5 years is a very realistic time. It can be shorter, it can be longer as well, based on different factors, of course. The collegium of pilots we have here is, of course, very diverse, with 32 nationalities represented in the airline. And we are very proud of it, and we stand by it as well, of course. So a little bit about our current business plan, Destination 2025 Clean. So we currently operate the most modern and green airplane fleet in Europe. We are the world's biggest A220-300 operator. About A220-300, it has just slightly less than 150 seats. That is in relation to the configuration of the seat or cabin configuration that we use in airBaltic. It has a very long commercial range for a single-aisle medium-range jet aircraft, 6,200 kilometers, and we definitely make good use out of it as well. Fuel consumption for single-aisle medium-range jet aircraft, 2,200 liters or 1,760 kilograms per hour, is a very competitive number, which makes it the least emission-emitting aircraft in its category for sure. So on the right side, the graph you see is the fleet development over the years. On the very left, we can see 2019 and what happened in the COVID years. Already in 2019, we operated 22 A220s, but we also had 12 Bombardier Dash Q400 aircraft, which was a turboprop, and also 4 Boeings. So in 2020, in the times of crisis, a decision was made to leave the aging fleet grounded, and a very bold decision was made to just continue with the single fleet operations from now on. As you can see, the growth thereafter, after 2020, has been very substantial. So within already 4 years or 4 years' time, basically a 2 times growth in fleet size, we can count it as considerable. So, and that very conveniently brings us to the airBaltic Pilot Academy, and why that will be a perfect solution for a aspiring pilot to be. So, what do we offer? We offer the integrated ATPL program, and APS stands for what did it stand for? ATPL stands for Airline Pilot Standard. Airline Pilot Standard, and we offer this, which lasts approximately 24 months. Why approximately? We are very dependent on the weather in the training period or training section of your studies, because planning can be changed due to weather or other operational scheduling reasons. Some people are able to do it with 18 months with perfect weather and perfect timings and good luck, but this will be the most minimum. But 24, I would say that is a good approximate number. Not only the airline, but also Pilot Academy is operating the most modern training aircraft, the Diamond 40 and 42 fleet, the single engine and multi-engine piston aircraft, and of course the simulator for both of those aircraft types as well in the training center. So best practice and quality from airline instructors, and that is conveniently brings us to the Airline Pilot Standard, whereas almost all of our instructors in Pilot Academy are also employees or operating first officers like myself in the airline. So not only are we certified instructors in ATPL subjects, but we also can bring on the table our experience and operational examples for reference from the airline. And after a successful selection, we can offer you pilot work already at airBaltic, which we know that for a pilot, the first job is the hardest to find and almost always the most important one to get. And with this program, we can offer this as well. So, like we mentioned, the Airline Pilot Standard from day number 1. When you start with us, you can expect that you will be surrounded by the people that you will aspire to be in the future. That's not only then in the classrooms or in the flight deck of the Diamond aircraft, but also when you spend your time in the training center and you get to have a good discussion with fellow other pilots from the airline as well, because in the training center they also go to recurrent training, simulator trainings, and so on. So now you have decided that you would like to try out in Pilot Academy, and first of all you have to meet some certain requirements for our program. First of all, you have to be at least 18 years of age. You have to hold a EU or European Economic Area or a Swiss passport. You also have to already have graduated from high school. You don't need a bachelor's degree or a higher professional education for that, but you have to have your high school graduated so that you're able to show your results in some of the subjects, maths, physics, and that's where we do the first assessment on as well. Of course, pilots do operate to very high health standards, and this standard is basically represented by meeting the Class 1 medical certificate requirement. We have to go through this every year as professional pilots, and we recommend that before the start of your studies you also already try to see if you do meet those standards, because for example in the pilot academy we expect that you have a valid Class 1 medical before you start flying with a training aircraft. But because you do take a big step into your career and it is a financial commitment as well, it's always better to know in advance if you meet those standards. Of course, we have a working language in the company and also in aviation overall. The standard for a common language is English, so excellent written and spoken English knowledge is required. Understandably, no criminal record is allowed to be operating as a professional pilot, and the ability to swim. There are some factors that do improve your chances to succeed in the selection process, and also in further aviation career. Firstly, high-level grades in maths, physics, and English are a good prerequisite for not only your assessment and studies, but having good mental math, mental physics, or good English skills help you in everyday pilot operations as well. Interest and experiences in aviation, of course, that helps a lot. First, for example, my experience in aviation before actually starting to study in aviation was close to zero, but it was something that interested me in general, and this is of course one extra motivation that brings you forward in your studies and your career. Good cognitive abilities, you have to be communicative, you have to be well adversed in how to say, operating the aircraft controls. You have to have good spatial orientation, and this is something that we test for as well in the selection process. Healthy active lifestyle, we talked about the medical requirements, and healthy lifestyle just supports you being able to keep your medical certificates valid for the rest of your career. Positive personality traits, well, what are positive personality traits for a pilot? I already mentioned words like communicative. I think a good pilot also sometimes has to be humble, able to accept criticism. Like, for example, what do you do when you are said that you have done wrong, you have done a mistake, how to react, how resilient you are. And these positive traits bring you a long way in your career as well. So about the selection process in general, right side in the visual representation we see a nice funnel. Those numbers of course are how to say, just for your reference. We don't limit our selection process to 200 pilots per selection round, let's say. But this is just a good example of getting the proportions right. So let's say that out of those 200 pilots send, or even more, send in their applications. Out of those 200, we then go further for doing English, maths, and physics tests for. Either or, English, maths, and physics tests, quite straightforward. We spoke about some cognitive abilities beforehand. We can also summarize them as general mental abilities. How do you think? What is your spatial orientation like? What's your writing abilities, etc. So basically an IQ test of sorts. Psychological assessment, like we mentioned before, that there are some mental abilities or psychological traits that can be assessed by a professional to see if you are fit to be a pilot or fit to be in a pilot profession. And finally, the final interview and financing support, and we will talk about this in later slides. But all in all, we can say that out of 200 applications, we can say that 12 are selected for the next classes or the next courses. So, and now we get to the most interesting part, I presume, for many of you, which is of course very important. You should, of course, handle your pilot training as a business case of how much money do you put into it and how much do you get out of it, how old you are, how much time do you have to spend in your pilot career. And of course, there are some financial foundations that we talk about in this presentation right now. So what do we see on the slides? On the left-hand side, we see the self-funded installment part, which is like a smaller part of this graph, because we can say that this is approximately 45 flight hours worth of your training plus the theoretical part. And on the right side, that is already the self-funded installment or the airline provided loan part, where from this moment on you have to have decided which way you go. So let's start from the left. First of all, you are being selected into the Pilot Academy. You have been assessed. You have been said the go-ahead that welcome to join the academy. So the self-funded installment for Pilot Academy is 15,000 euros. That is the money that is your down payment, and that you have to have available. So this installment basically covers approximately 9 to 12 months worth of your studying. It covers the full theoretical part of your studies and also 45 flight hours worth of your flight training. We can say that this is approximately a private pilot license worth of training. So when this time passes, then you are going into the airBaltic performance review. Now, the airline is able to offer an airline-provided loan, which means that after this airBaltic performance review, this review is meant to already assess that if you graduate from the academy, you complete your studies, that you are already accepted into the airline to be a flying pilot. So this is a guarantee for the airline as well, that if you complete your studies, then the loan is basically meant to complete your studies. So the performance review in itself concludes then some extra points that I speak on the next slide. But from this point on, you can be eligible for a loan in the amount of up to 64,000 euros. You can select of how much of it you actually take as a loan, but this is another detail. So, like we said, the studies all in all last about 24 months, and the self-funded installment part was 12. So this final installment is also meant to be for 12 months. Why so much more cost for the other 12 months? Because flight training, of course, is way more expensive than theoretical training. Because in the this part of the training, you do most of your flying. So on the upper part, we spoke about the airline provided loan, but in the lower part, you also have the possibility to go fully self-funded. So when you go fully self-funded option, again, that will be for the next 12 months, but you can divide this into 3 parts. You don't have to pay this total 64,000 euros at one time, but you are able to divide this into smaller installments. And they are basically meant to cover next modules of your flight training. One thing to note as well that I forgot to mention here is that when you take the airline provided loan, there is a one-time loan administration fee. It's not an interest rate, but an administration fee. So for example, if you loan 64,000 euros from the company, then there is a one-time installment administration fee of 6,400 euros. So in total, you have to repay in the end 70,400 euros, which is definitely a better deal than a 10% interest rate from banks, which, yeah, your credit cost will be way higher in that sense. Okay, so once again about the self-funded option. The self-funded option covers, or for both options, both the self-funded airline provided loan. On those options, they cover all the theoretical CAA examinations, your initial first-class medical examination, and one renewal, because you are expected to firstly, already when you start studying, you will have your medical, which will be valid for 1 year, and then another 1 year later. So we expect you to graduate within 2 years. Naturally, the study materials, equipment, an iPad by the academy, which entails all the CBTs and training materials for your studies. Of course, a uniform. As I said, we do train you to airline pilot standard, which means that from day one, you will also wear a uniform as do all pilots at their time of work. Now, when we go full self-funded option, then you don't have a bond with the airline after finishing the studies. What is a bond? The bond is basically a commitment to continue working for the airline for a certain amount of time. And that means that you don't have to, and that bond basically covers your type rating on the A220. If you can always leave earlier if you want, but then you have to calculate with the fact that you have to pay back part of the type rating cost to the airline, which is, of course, an industry standard and also governed by regulations in the European Union. Selection process in that sense, in a self-funded option, only consists of 2 steps. For if you take a loan program with the airline, that will be a 4-step. And this 2-step process is then reduced down to the final interview and the initial maths, physics, and an English test. Successful graduates can then undergo a selection process at airBaltic if interested. So, like we mentioned with the company-provided loan program, you do have this selection process already after the first approximately 9 to 12 months. But if you go the full self-funded option, after you graduate, you still have the option to go through the airline selection process if you want to continue flying for the airline still. airBaltic Pilot Academy graduates always have priority over other candidates that are external. So this is a huge plus on the airline as well. So now we speak about the airBaltic loan program, and this is an option which we know for a fact that most of our graduates take. This is a really good loan program in the greater scheme of things in the European market. So there is a limited number of places for this program. Approximately 50 or 70% of the group are entitled to receive it. You do go through the performance review after successfully passing all your ATPL theoretical exams, which is approximately 9 to 12 months. And in practical flying phase, you work and train with a time division of 50-50. So what do we mean that you work at the same time? So it is a legal requirement from the airline that if you receive a larger loan than 20,000 euros from the company, that you have to be employed by the airline in order to cover such a huge amount of your training cost. Therefore, after your assessment, if you are greenlit for the loan, you are offered a job in airBaltic at the same time. And this position that you will be working at is, of course, a discussion with you and the company, and it will be based on your previous education and skills. So if you have been in IT before, there might be a job in the IT department for you. If you have done something on the apron in aviation before, you can do flight coordination or in flight ops or in the office and PR or HR, depends on your previous education and skills. So your work and training, as I mentioned, will be planned 50-50, that for example 2 weeks training and 2 weeks work at airBaltic Group companies. You will then also receive a salary for your work, of course, and at this time no loan deductions will be made. You will only start repaying the loan when you become a first officer, and you also have already passed the initial line check on the A220 as a first officer. So this is approximately 4 months after you are starting work as a first officer, because you go through some other trainings as well before you actually go to your line training. So 2024 starting dates. In 2024 we will have 4 groups starting. First of all, February 5th, and my lovely colleagues on the site say that if this is still available for application. Okay, this is already closed, so the next group starting at April 10th, there are still spots available for April 10th. And a September start for those who might be still graduating high school in spring or summer 2024, and the November group as well. So as we can see, the 24th group is already starting in 2024. Pilot Academy started operating in 2018, so 24 groups in 6 years. You can see the influx of pilots very well. So once again about the the structure of your training, how all of this looks like. And integrated ATPL is of course a very standardized program, and this is made up in different portions or modules. First of all, 14% of your study is 150 hours. That will be your classroom study with instructor. 280 hours computer-based training. That is where you mostly do work with your iPad. We have a computer-based training, or CBTs as we call them, which are then Bristol provided, Bristol BGS provided. And then of course the largest amount of your study is 335 euros, which makes more than, or basically 1/3 of your total theoretical training with this self-study. You do have to have a lot of self-discipline, a lot of self-motivation to put yourself through it. I do have a higher professional education from before starting my pilot career, and I must say that the theoretical training is of course a challenge in ATPL, and you do have to put a lot of effort in it, but it does pay off in the end if you do very well. So, and then we get to your flight training on the training aircraft in Pilot Academy. So 155 hours you will spend in the single engine piston aircraft, which is the Diamond 40 next generation, very good aircraft for training, very safe aircraft. And next 160 hours you spend in FNTP, Flight Navigation and Procedural Trainer, FNPT. That is the simulator that we have in downstairs in airBaltic training center in Riga, which is both configurable in Diamond 40 or 42 configuration, and that's where you do your most instrument training for your license. I will say that now the final 15 hours is the most or the second most fun part, and we get to the most fun part in your training in the next pop-up, but multi-engine piston training flights with Diamond 42 aircraft. Then you complete your flight training, or you have a cherry on top of it with upset prevention and recovery training, approximately 8 hours for it. So what is upset prevention recovery training? We could say that it's almost aerobatical flying, but just an introduction into it. And why do we do this is that every pilot has to understand when they are in a situation that they don't want to be in an undesired state of the aircraft. If you have turbulence and you find yourself upside down, or having hardship in controlling your aircraft, so you do have to understand what to do in those situations. So according to, again, European regulations, UPRT training is something that you go through, and that's definitely the funnest part of your aviation training, where as a cherry on top you get to do aerobatic flying with smaller certified aircraft for this occasion, with a good aerobatical instructor. Definitely worth it. And finally, airline pilot standard multi-crew cooperation course, including swept wing and airline operations on the A220. So we could say that in this moment you already have concluded all your pilot training as such, and now you have to convert from a single pilot operations mentality into a multi-crew operations mentality. And of course you get introduced into flying swept wing aircraft and going more over airline operations and airline procedures. So all in all, 1,103 hours in total. As we said, 18 to 24 months approximately. 18 is the minimum, 24 I would say is the maximum. Again, things can differ. In COVID times, this time was a bit longer, but if no real bad weather faces you along the training, then we'll be all good. So our Pilot Academy Diamond fleet currently consists of 10 aircraft. We do operate our training flights currently out of 3 main bases, which Liepāja is in the western part of Latvia at the coast, which is our main flying base or training base. And of course out of Riga as well, and Ventspils also in the west, very close to Liepāja, north of Liepāja, as our secondary or tertiary base as well. Airline pilot demand. So why do we do this? Why does the airline have their own connected pilot academy? Because we do need to grow. As we saw that by 2030, we expect our pilot demand to be in the range of 1,000 pilots. Like we said, 10 pilots per aircraft. We expect to have 100 aircraft. So following latest agreement with Airbus, we do plan to operate 100 aircraft by 2030, and currently the company has 470 pilots. So over the course of next 6 years, we need to have a good influx of first officers into the company, and we do expect to upgrade into the captaincy as soon as possible, and because airplanes need pilots. So additionally, the pilot ratio rate, like we said, 10 pilots ratio per aircraft. Each year is around 50 people. That means that we do need 50 new first officers per year at least. So a little bit about pilot career in general as well. On this slide we have a possible 9-year or more than 9 years pilot progression. And first of all, let's check on the lower part of the columns here. We have on the left hand side we have FO0 up to SFO. So FO0 is the lowest level of first officer that you will start your work in the airline as. And SFO, senior first officer, that is your final step or your final level as a first officer before you actually are upgraded into captaincy. So captain levels or salary levels go or increase every 2 years, whereas first officer levels basically every 1 year. So all in all, the green columns represent gross sums and then the gray represents net sums. So of course this is an approximate figure here, and if you fly more you are able to earn more. If you fly less or whatever the reasons are, you fly less or you can also earn less. But these are good approximate numbers. So once again, to reiterate that when you do take the opportunity for the loan from the airline, you'd only start paying it back from your salary when you're at FO0 level, but not from the first day, but when you do complete your line check on the A220. So the idea behind it is that you are always left with a good amount of salary that you're still able to live with, and so that we don't really leech you off the money from the first day. Of course, the salary is not only the only benefit for flight crew, and again, in the airline industry, you have the perks of ID tickets, but as we see in the next slides, we have a very multicultural and diverse employee statistics, in a sense that a lot of pilots are not only from Latvia, but they do travel between Riga and their home country. So we do provide them with unlimited home leave tickets, which means that on airBaltic flights you can fly to your home country with unlimited amounts. But not only for flying between home and work, but also for your vacation or just general leisure activities. You as an employee, your parents, your spouse, partner and children do have access to the industry discounted tickets. We call them ID tickets. And these are heavily discounted tickets that you can use as well if you want to travel not only on airBaltic, but on our partnering airlines as well at very nicely discounted prices, basically around the whole world. According to Latvian regulation, you have a paid vacation of 20 days per annum, which is still 4 weeks per year, so 20 working days per annum. And all training, validation, medicals, visas costs are covered by the airline. So not only this list here, but for example, uniforms as well. Your revalidation of your medical, your licenses, basically all the costs that are related to upholding your flying abilities are covered by the airline. As an extra, we provide a loss of license insurance. Loss of license, we mostly mean loss of your medical license. So in the unfortunate possibility in your career, if something happens to your health and you are unable to uphold your medical license any longer, then you are entitled to a compensation based on the insurance agreement, and you are eligible for it after 1 year of employment. standard health insurance as well. That gives you access to medical services in Latvia. You have possibilities. It is good coverage in a sense that you have possibilities to also how to say, spread it onto dental coverage or sports coverage, some costs on sports activities, and also STEBI, for example, if locals know what that means, that is available as well. And of course, accident insurance 24/7 when you are employed by the airline and you are fulfilling your duties at work. So regions covered currently where we do have students from in the Pilot Academy. So on the left we have the European chart. We can see that all of the Baltic countries are covered, most of Scandinavia and Western Europe. And of course we would like to see more of the Central Europe to be covered as well. And speaking of Latvia, we are almost done with the puzzle, but almost all regions of Latvia are already covered. So thank you for your attention, but first we speak about our social media as well. Of course, we are accessible on all social media channels. On YouTube, we find good videos about airBaltic Pilot Academy as well. Be sure to check our Facebook site, and of course, you can always contact us through those channels as well. So this concludes the presentations, but do not go everywhere. After a small break of a couple of minutes, we do a questions and answers round. In order to do that, please open up your web browser and go on slide.do. You are presented with a small box where you enter a code or a password, PA0124, and that gives you access to asking questions, even anonymously if you would like to, and we'll do a questions and answers round very shortly. Thank you for your attention. Hello again, everybody. We are now back for the Q&A session. Just a small note as well that also after this presentation ends, it will be available on YouTube as well. So saying that, when we see a couple of questions popping up that already have been answered, I will jump over them if the good answer has already been given. So to save time for everybody. But let's start straight away. What is the criteria for qualifying for the loan program? So first of all, in order to start studying at the Pilot Academy, you go through the maths, physics and English test and also a general interview. And like we mentioned that after the first part of your flight training, approximately 9 months where you have completed all your theoretical training and part of your flight training, approximately pilot private license level, then you will go through another, let's call it airline assessment process, where you have now an additional psychological assessment, which you didn't have before. And also then you have 2 interviews, which one of them will be a general HR interview and then the interview also with the chief pilots and chief pilot's office in general. After this, you get a green light and then that will be how you do qualify for the loan program. Why did the salary decrease for all compared to the presentation of last year? In example, FO level 1 was 40,440 euros net and now 36,792 euros net. That is a good question. I do not know exactly because I haven't done the presentation last year. Maybe there is some taxation changes in the salary. I would suggest you ask somewhere else, which I can say as an operated pilot that I have not personally seen any salary decrease in comparison to my my previous salaries last year. So I hope that gives you some answer to it because I personally don't know the details to it. Is it possible to apply if I have already completed the theoretical ATPL exams? Of course, it's always possible to apply. I'm pretty sure that there might be some difficulties in getting your theoretical ATPL examinations as counted for, but this is a personal case where I would suggest you contact the airBaltic Pilot Academy team personally because we already always look cases like this in a personal level as well. How should I prepare for the... one more note to contact the training center. training@airbaltic.com is the general email with your question. How should I prepare for the assessment? I can say that you are not allowed to use a calculator, so look on some videos on YouTube and remind how to calculate on paper, how to multiply, how to divide, how to add, how to deduct on paper, like we did in 5th grade. And those mostly always, if you do feel that might be your English knowledge needs a little bit of brushing up, so just do a little bit brushing up. Read some English books, watch some English videos, try to speak English to yourself or your friends or colleagues, and just in general do something that would support your maths, physics and English test assessment result. Next one. What if I don't get selected into the loan program and I can't afford self-funded training? Why only 50 to 70% of the course get a loan? Now this is a of course, always a risk that can happen. First of all, let's answer the first part of the question. We do only accept you already into the Pilot Academy where we see that you have a really good chance of getting this positive answer to the selection for the loan program. Why only 50 to 70%? Of course, so far I've seen that basically 100% of the course has received this loan. So that is, of course, that we have to give you kind of like a disclaimer as well, that you can expect that it's not 100% sure that you get it. It's still depends a lot on you, your performance in the first part before you actually go through the assessment for the loan. It's nothing certain until it is actually certain. Next one. If I finish Pilot Academy with the airBaltic loan, how many years is it required for me to work for the company afterwards? 5 years is the standard time for the loan repayment, and the A220 type rating bond is 3 years. Does the fully self-funded program also require 50% of work? If not, does it mean that the training is completed faster? No, you are correct. If you are doing fully self-funded, it does not require you to work with the airline. It depends, because if you don't work, you might be more flexible in your training schedule as well, so you will be available 100%. However, I personally do recommend to take this work option, because if you do fully self-funded, depends on your funding options. But I want to reiterate that on a airline provided loan, it's not a 10% interest rate, it's a 10% administration fee. And if you do the maths afterwards, depends how you self-fund your training, it might add up to a lot of changes. Plus, you might get to work on the airline in a position that is really interesting for you. Yeah. Next one. The assessment will be held online and physically. If yes, after approximately how many days should we come to Riga after the online assessment? It has been done online in the past as well, to an extent due to COVID regulations. My good colleagues on the side will give me a note really 50. Online, yes, is possible. In approximately how many days should we come to Riga after the online assessment? I would like you to ask this question directly from the training center as well. Basically, mostly 1 week. Yeah. Is type rating included in price or the loan with the bond on top of 5 years? So, type rating on the A220 will be bonded. It is not a loan. And basically, as I said, the bond for the A220 is 3 years. So if you continue working for the airline for 3 years, after this period passes, the bond is removed. You don't have to pay anything for the A220 type rating. And but if you do leave the company, let's say at 1.5 years, exactly at the half of the bond, you pay back half of the type rating cost. Does the Pilot Academy currently have a lot of applications? We always do have a lot of applications. I do mean it. I mean, of course, a lot of applications does not mean that all of them are eligible, but the interest is always quite high, and the size of the group starting now, and we can see that the competition for them is quite good as well, and that already shows that we already in the past have proved the success and the goodness of the program in general, and as always, word goes around. Other training providers, an example, EFA, say around 24 months, especially considering airBaltic does 50% in the second half. How can your training be so much shorter? Like I said, I did not say that it is shorter. It may be shorter. 24 months is a good average to go by, but it depends on a lot of factors. It depends on in which month you start. Are you able to complete your theory and go straight to flying, or you complete your training in a theoretical training in January and you still have to wait for March for weather improvements? It depends a lot. But as an average, 24 months is a good way to go by. Is there one maths, physics and English test, or are there 3 different tests? Plus, what is the necessary percentage to pass the test? Maths, physics and English test, it's one test in basically one sitting. Basically, it's a test with an amount of questions that some of them are physics and English and maths questions. What is the necessary percentage to pass the tests? of course, we cannot tell you that right now, but basically, the better you do, the better the possibility of being accepted. Is there any way to prepare for maths physics test, any prep materials that can be purchased? Already answered, let's move on. If I have a university diploma, should I send it instead of the high school one, or would you still like to see the high school grades? That is exactly what my case was. I sent both. How long does it typically take to pay back the loan? What is the monthly rate? The loan term is 5 years, and basically you can then do the math on yourself on the training cost. So 64,000 euros plus the 10% administration fee divided by 5 times 12 months. What level of English is required at application stage? Do you ask for a certificate? No, we do not ask for a certificate. The level of English required at application stage, you have to be able to communicate, you have to be able to understand, you have to be able to read. I will say in terms of, what is it called, the academic certificate classification, B2 will be a good level. And in terms of your training, the Pilot Academy also puts you through ICAO English examination, and then ICAO level English 4 level is that is required to operate as a pilot in most of the world. And we expect that you are at that level. English level B2 will be a good point to look at it. But we don't require it for you to ascertain it before you start studying or before you start applying. Do we have to score 100% on the test, or is there room for, for example, 1 to 2 mistakes? There's always room for mistakes. I mean, pilots always do mistakes. Yeah, let's move on. Can you tell us a bit more about accommodation during the training? What are the options and what do current students do? Very good question. Accommodation is of course not included in your training costs. Depends where you are from. All in all, I would say like a 2-room flat to be rented in Riga center is approximately from 400 to 600 euros, depends on the classification or the quality of it. Other students, especially in the beginning, they, whereas groups have not yet formed, like friend groups that they don't rent a place together, they do rent some flats on their own. That depends on you. You can check the classifieds online as well. During the flight training in Liepaja, there is access to a dormitory that one is partnering with Pilot Academy. We have 2 full floors available there. They are at very affordable price, very flexible, but during the flying season in Liepaja, a lot of students group up and do rent larger flats as well. If I have a PPL already, will the first phase still take 9 months? Yes and no. Personal case, already in the first group in 2018, some of the hours can be counted into your flight training. That can be counted as it. But if you have a PPL, you still have to do the ATPL theoretical examination. So I would say more or less similar, maybe not a little bit less, but let's say yes. Are the first flight lessons taken during the initial theory training phase, or do we have to pass the first 6 theoretical exams beforehand? The practice we have here is that you do the first phase theory with the first subjects in school, and you do school exams. And you don't have to do the CAA examination for the first phase before you start flying. So you can go flying before your CAA examinations. Is it possible to get 4 weeks vacation in a row, or do you need to split the vacation time? I presume this is an airline question. It depends. The standard is that 2 weeks vacation you have to get in a row at least in a year. 2 weeks of vacation has to be in a low season. And I will say that yes, you can actually get 4 weeks vacation in a row if you have it in the winter. If I am armed forces background from another EU country with medical training, is it an advantage for a pilot job? I do actually have a armed forces background from another EU country with medical training. I didn't have an advantage for a pilot job per se. When you say medical training, I mean, it's always an advantage to know more about things in general, because the ATPL theory is very multifold. For example, human performance. If you know something about medicine, that helps you to understand some physiological principles of aviation as well. So it's an advantage for a pilot job in a sense that you know more. Do students who will not take the loan have to pass extra assessments compared to those that do take the loan? On the contrary, you have to pass less tests. Are the math, physics, English and general mental abilities tests done in one sitting, or does either of them take place separately? Math, physics, English tests and general mental abilities tests are done all in one sitting. Is A220 type rating paid for? Already answered, yes, it is paid for, but it is bonded. If you leave before your bond ends within 3 years, if you leave early, you have to pay back part of the bond, aka part of the type rating cost. When the student is starting to become a pilot, does he or she get a small salary to get food, etc.? When we fly, you will have crew meals, which you don't have to pay for. They are included. And also when you are on layovers outside of our home base, which we currently have as Riga, then you are entitled to per diems, which are meant to cover your food costs when you are not working. So the answer actually is yes. What are the approximate living costs in Riga per month? Please check online some cost of living websites for that. I am not the one person to say that. How does the general mental abilities test look like? They look like a general mental abilities test. They test different sides of your cognitive skills, your mental abilities, your spatial awareness, your all types of cognitive things. How is flying the A220 different from other aircrafts? An example, the A320. I haven't flown the A320 myself. I have flown the Dash Q400 before, and it flies like a dream. I honestly mean it. If I finished the math studies in 11th grade and did an exam in it and don't have the math in 12th grade, will it limit my chance of applying? I would say this is a bit of different case. It depends on your background, in which country you are from. In which country you are from. In your country, if it is one of the ways to graduate high school, it should not limit your chance of applying, but do again contact airBaltic Pilot Academy separately. Can I still apply if I am from the UK but have a dual nationality with an European passport? Yes. Is the ATPL theory phase continuous, or is there any flight training in between depending on weather season? It depends when you start. For example, if you start in November, you're quite likely to all ATPL theory before next year's March, when the full-on flight season starts. If you start in March or April, you possibly only do 1 or 2 phases and go flying and then come back for your final part of theory. It depends on when you start, depends on weather, depends on season. Is there any transportation between Liepaja and Riga airports, or from apartment to airport? In Pilot Academy, when you are training, accommodation and transport is in your own cost. So to answer, there is no transportation cost coverage. There is transportation available between Liepaja and Riga airports in the form of your own transportation or regular bus traffic. Is the academy located only in Latvia? I'm from Spain. Is there any academy located here for the whole rating, or do I need to travel to study there? If you want to take part in airBaltic program, you have to study here. I have a medical class 1. Can I transfer it, or do I need to have another initial class 1 in Latvia? If you have a medical class 1 from any other European member state, then you can transfer the medical into Latvia. No props. You don't need to do another initial assessment. How are working conditions at airBaltic? It's wide question. I personally am quite okay with the working conditions at airBaltic in everyday life. The A220 is a very modern aircraft which does reduce the workload for a pilot in general. The support for pilots in terms of actual flight operations is very good as well, in the form of almost paperless cockpit, different small things like no paper flight plans, but everything is on the iPad. Load sheets can be loaded onto the aircraft via A-cars, so there is like very many small things that are really good in airBaltic. I would like to add that the company also provides opportunities for extracurricular activities. So there aren't many airlines where you enter the airline not being an instructor before. I entered the airline as a pilot, and now I am an instructor as well, and I have the opportunity to continue on this path as well. So there are different nice possible projects on the side that you are given if you want to. During training work schedule, does the work have to be in Liepaja because the flight training is there, or it could be in Riga as well? It mostly is in Riga because you will be working for the airline. So the airline operates out of Riga base, and the flight training in Liepaja, you will basically then travel between Riga and Liepaja. I received a message saying that the invitation to the online test will arrive within 2 weeks. Now a month later, I haven't received an answer. What should I do? Please contact us again. And let's clear this up. I have another loan in my country. Will I be able to apply for the airBaltic loan? Yes, this is a company provided loan. It's not a financial institution, so you can apply for the loan. Which parts of the application process are in person in Riga? The psychological test, if I am correct, and also, of course, the final interviews. But there is always some flexibility in things, but let's say that these two most definitely. Which parts of the assessment must be done on site and which can be done remotely if someone is not living in Latvia? Already replied. Maths, physics, English is online. If I do not live in Latvia and get my medical one in my home country, will the company reimburse me? Before applying for the academy, I would say no, but if you already study here and then you have transferred your medical into Latvia, that cost is already covered, as we spoke about before. And when you if you work for the airline and you still decide to do the yearly renewal in your home country, you are eligible for some company reimbursement for it. Mm-hmm. Do we get the PPL and ATPL theory after 9 months and can continue the training elsewhere? You can always leave if you want. We can always say that. But in terms of legalities, first of all, you don't get a PPL here. It's like a PPL level like flying and experience. You are in an integrated ATPL theory program. So if you finish it in the middle way, you still already have some flight experience, which you might be able to continue training elsewhere and to use this experience. But in terms of the whole program, if you leave early, you will then leave the program behind. Can one choose to fly only from Riga, not the other two bases, if they have already an apartment rent lease in Riga, or is accommodation provided? If you're referring to training flights in the pilot academy, then no. Is it possible to work for airBaltic while being based at another airBaltic than Riga? Our only and official pilot base for airBaltic is Riga. We do base our aircraft in different countries. So all in all, I am national Estonian. I do live in Estonia and I do commute to, if I start my, let's say, 5-day duty and it happens to be flying out of Vilnius, let's say, or Las Palmas or Zurich for that matter, then I do travel still to Riga airport. If I already stated in advance that I will need the loan, is there a chance of not getting even after passing successfully all ATPL exams? There is always a risk. I cannot say that there is never a risk, but I can state that if you do pass all your ATPL exams and you are a good sport in a sense that you have good attitude towards your training, I don't see personally like why there are any other bad things that would happen so you don't get the loan. But already the initial assessment and the interview, I mean the initial 15,000 euros that you pay in is actually a very low amount in a sense of for the experience that you receive, and it's a quite low risk payment in a sense that you find out if you like it, if you like flying and so on. And if you do like it and you do decide to continue, then of course you have more motivation to conclude the ATPL examinations with good results, and yeah, do not get disheartened about high risks and possible denial. That can always happen. It depends on your case, but if you are very motivated, you study well, you show good attitude towards your training, then the sky is the limit. When I worked after ATPL as a pilot, can I stay in Switzerland because airBaltic have in Switzerland a base? Is the salary same or we become Swiss salary? As a pilot working for airBaltic, you can live wherever, but you still have a base in Riga, so you still have to travel to your flight base for the start of your duties. Is the salary same or will become Swiss salary? You will be employed under Latvian regulations, and that's the salary you get. How does a typical roster look like at airBaltic? It will be interesting to see in the presentation. Thank you a lot for the event. I do have time off, approximately 10 days per month. Every other day is flying duty, so I will say depends. There are different roster possibilities as well, flex or fix. Yeah, we can always speak about. It's standard. It's not fully as a minimum. It's not that you only sleep under the sun and don't fly at all. Does all training take place in Latvia? I would say yes, with the possible exemptions of UPRT training happening in another European state sometimes. If my application gets rejected, after how long can I reapply? 1 year. If we are traveling to Riga for interviews, assessments, will airBaltic cover our travel costs? That depends. I would say no, but you can always contact us if you need some access to some discounted tickets, but I will not count on it. If I come by car, is there any place to park it? Yes, parking is available for students. What do you think are 3 characteristics that should define a well-prepared candidate? Greetings from Romania. 3 characteristics: eager to study, willingness to improve, and good attitude towards not always being right and able to do mistakes and get criticisms about it as well. And now the question is, what do you do when you get criticisms? If I am studying okay and showing progress and passing all my tests, etc., is there a possibility that I don't get the third-party assistance for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th payment? If you, as third party, you mean like a bank outside of airBaltic? I mean, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th payment, I think you referred to the self-funded program, which is self-funded, so the airline does not provide you with a loan. So if it's self-funded, you would need to get financing from the third party, like a bank or your parents or your friends or relatives. So that depends on your case. Are there any specific selection rules for maths and physics and English? If so, do you help with assessment? It's no, there are not specific selection rules for maths and physics. It's basically standard math. It's not too hard. Basically everything you can calculate on paper, like I said. You're not allowed to use a calculator. Is it advisable to deal with the Class 1 medical certificate before applying? Yes. Try to know if you would be eligible for Class 1 medical beforehand. Let me get a sip of the drink. Travel between training places paid for? Already answered, no. If I already have an EASA Class 1 medical certificate obtained in Romania, can I use it in Latvia? Yes. If I am from Ukraine, can I participate in the selection? You need to hold an EU, EAA or Swiss passport as well. But basically, you will receive a 2-year permit initially, a 2-year working permit. So please contact once again. I'm pretty sure there is a possibility for you to participate in the selection. I have passed my ATPL theory in the past. Can I join the academy and do everything again? Yes, you are always free to join the academy and do everything again. Approximately, the ATPL theory, when completed, has a validity time, which I don't remember by heart right now, but it does have a validity time. So contact us again. So we will give another 10 more minutes. There are 20 questions left, and I think we are able to make it as well. I'm a holder of PPL airplanes with multi-engine. Can I still apply? Yes, you can apply. You have the experience. It might be also counted towards your training. Do GCSs count towards the high school degree? I don't know what GCS means. Might be something from your education system. Please elaborate your question. I am a student of an aviation university in Ukraine, but I do not have a first-class medical certificate of the European standard, only KO1. What shall I do? You should get first-class medical certificates according to EASA standards, but again, please contact training center privately. Let's discuss. There are always possibilities to see how things can be completed. What exams or interviews do you include in the assessment for self-study program? Is it more easy than assessment for the loan program? So I think you're referring to self-funded program. So for self-funded and the loan program, what do you have? The same test. Same is the Maths, Physics, English test, which is the same for all, and you have basically the interview, which is the same for all. But the loan program differentiates that after 9 months of studying, you will also go through a psychological assessment and the HR interview and chief pilot's interview afterwards. How many flying possibilities are there, from smallest planes to biggest? I'm not sure if you refer to airBaltic. In airBaltic, if you go through the academy, you will fly the Diamond 40, Diamond 42, and the A220. I'm sorry for a bit silly question, but Latvia is very, very close to Russian border, and I'm a bit afraid of it. Does everything good near the border? We fly every day, no problems at all. What does include into self-study program assessment? Already answered. You will find it on YouTube link. Can you tell more about the uniform? I am currently wearing the airline uniform, which is a dark navy blue with stripes and wings. In the pilot academy, you will wear basically a black uniform trousers with a shirt, and you will also get epaulets signifying your rank. You start with 0 stripes. After solo flight, you get 1 stripe. After multi-engine piston flight is concluded, you get 2 stripes. And also you get a jumper, but no jacket yet. When is the next open house on site? It will be in just a moment. I will get information really soon. I think it was February 2nd is on site in Riga. If I speak B1 level English fluent, it will be enough for studying. I would say so. The B2 was just like a guidance. B level is already good if you speak fluent. Do mind that you have to be also able to read and understand B2 level written text in order to go through the training, because everything's done in English, of course. Will you describe the studies as technically advanced? Yes. Can GCSEs be used as a high school certificate? UK, okay, I am not sure about your training program. I am not sure. Please contact the training department for this. Do you accept applications and from people transitioning from other careers and intermediaries? Yes, absolutely. As I said, this is your personal business case. So I joined the Pilot Academy when I was 29 and currently I'm 34, and we have had students who have started at the age of 45, but you have to just take into consideration that you're able to fly up to the age of 65 according to the current regulations. So when you start flying in Pilot Academy at the age of 55, which is all fine as well, as long as you uphold your class 1 medical. It might be that with 15 years of career left in aviation, it's not the business case that you want to go through. But mid-30s, absolutely fine. I will say that you as an adult learner, you have different motivation towards your studies, which can be a very good thing because you know what you joined up for and you already have some previous experience from your life as well. Due to my work, I couldn't watch from the beginning. Is there any opportunity to watch again? Yes, it will be uploaded on YouTube. Is my high school grades were not the best, but my assessment is good? Do I still have a good chance at getting accepted? Absolutely. The language used in the teaching material, is it a very advanced language or has the material been produced so that it should be reasonably easy to read? It is reasonably easy to read. It will be understandable. How would you recommend to prepare for the maths, physics and English assessment? For maths, like I said, please remind yourself how to calculate on paper in a written form without the calculator, always helpful. Physics, it depends. And English, like I said, just try to practice English a bit more. How does the bidding system work as a pilot? I bid every month for some flights I would like to operate in the next month. All pilot community is doing the same, and according to seniority and then different considerations and requirements, the system will try to give you your requested flight. If somebody with higher seniority has requested the same, they will get it, and then you might get your second priority, etc. Can the loan repayments be deducted from salary via the airline, so anything I earn after deduction I keep, or do I pay it in my own manners? No, it will be deducted directly from your salary. How often can someone reapply? Every 1 year. Does airBaltic have different work schedule systems, like 7 on or 7 off, or is it one fixed roster? Basically, there are two main possibilities. One is the flex roster, where you work basically your normal roster in a sense that you can expect to have at least once 4 days off in a row per month. And then we have a fixed roster where it's more like 5 days flying, 4 days off, 5 days flying, 2 off, 5 days flying, 3 off, 5 days flying, 4 off. Basically, it's a fixed pattern, but we don't have 7, 7, and so on. By GCSEs, I meant the education system in the UK for up to 16 years old. It is pretty much high school, I guess. It might be, but again, we have to assess your case differently. So please, I am not an expert in this, but please do approach airBaltic training with an email with this, and we'll be sure to reply to your question. We'll look into it in depth as well. On which platform can I contact you to discuss the details? Either training@airbaltic.com or on socials. When will the invites go out for on-site open house in February? Need some preparations for the visit. We'll make sure to have them available on the social media, but you can already book your tickets for 2nd of February to Riga if you need to travel. Is everyone able to take the loan from airBaltic, and for how many years will I have to pay it back? Sorry if that was already asked. It was already asked, you will find it on YouTube, but it will take you 5 years to pay back the loan. And if you mean as everyone able to take the loan, that yes, there is no pre-requirement in the sense that you just have to apply to Pilot Academy. you have to pass your examinations, and then you have to get the go-ahead after your psychological evaluation and chief pilot interviews. When will be the next admission process at airBaltic? Usually held on Mondays for the loan program dates. The date may vary for self-funded. Thank you for the open day. Good answers, well presented information. I liked everything. Thanks, Space Rewards. No, thank you. Thank you for the kind words. Of course, welcome on the 2nd of February on site. We'll meet you there. I actually might be at the training center this day. So thank you for joining us today. And of course, like we said, you can always contact us on socials or training@airbaltic.com for your more specific cases. And you can find this video on YouTube as well. Thank you very much and have a great day.